The council chamber of the Alien Alliance was full of laughter. Their commanders sat around a long, shining table made of black stone. Every seat was taken by a war leader from a different species. Tall reptilian generals hissed with amusement. Insectoid admirals clicked their mandibles like applause, and avian strategists rustled their wings in excitement. They were laughing at the same joke. They were laughing at humanity. "Humans are weak," one reptilian commander declared, his voice sharp like a blade. "They hide on their small blue planet and hope the galaxy will forget them." Another admiral, tall and insect-like, slammed his claw on the table. "They are not warriors, they are prey. They bleed, they cry, they break too easily. What threat can such fragile creatures be?" The chamber echoed with cruel laughter. To the aliens it felt safe to mock, because in their eyes humanity was nothing more than a small voice in a giant galaxy. But a human observer was present, a quiet diplomat sent to the council. He sat alone at the edge of the chamber, his face calm, his eyes steady. He did not speak even when the insults grew louder. He only listened. The aliens thought his silence was fear, but it was something else. It was patience. The council screens lit up with images of human fleets, tiny compared to the massive armadas of the Alliance. "Look at them," one avian strategist mocked, his wings spreading in pride. "Their ships are small, their weapons outdated, their numbers laughable. They are like children holding sticks while we hold blades of fire." The commanders roared again, their voices shaking the walls. But in the far back of the chamber, the human diplomat whispered a single phrase under his breath, a phrase none of the aliens understood: "Boogeyman." The human voice was soft, but it carried weight, almost like a shadow moving across the room. The aliens ignored it. They were too busy celebrating their own superiority. They believed fear belonged to others, never to them. Outside the council chamber, human intelligence officers were already moving. Secret files were exchanged in encrypted channels. Names were marked, operations were planned. Earth had heard every insult, and Earth had answered in silence. On Earth itself, deep underground in a hidden bunker, men and women studied files of old myths and dark stories. Not just myths, but training programs built around them. The boogeyman, the nameless fear that haunted children in the dark. Baba Yaga, the hunter in the woods who never forgave, never rested, never stopped. These were not just bedtime stories for humans. They were cultural weapons. They were symbols of relentless terror. For centuries, humanity had whispered these names, but now the galaxy would learn them. The human military council sat in shadow. No bright banners, no loud speeches, only silence. The kind of silence that comes before a storm. "We will not match them ship for ship," one general said, his face pale in the dim light. "We will not fight them on numbers. We will fight them where they are weakest, in their minds." Another voice spoke, colder. "They think we are cowards. Let us give them something to truly fear, something that follows them in the dark, something they cannot kill." The plan had already begun. Human fleets moved quietly, their paths hidden, their signals silent. They were shadows in space. Back in the alien chamber, laughter still rolled like thunder. They passed around holograms of human soldiers, mocking their size, their fragile bones, their lack of claws. "They are meat," one commander sneered, "and meat always belongs to hunters." But the hunters were already being hunted, because while they laughed, an alien scout ship near the border of Terran space went silent. No distress call, no debris, only silence. The council dismissed it as an accident. One ship out of thousands meant nothing, but then another ship vanished, then another. Whispers began in the lower ranks of the alien armies. Soldiers spoke of shadows moving through their camps, strange marks scratched into metal walls, messages written in languages they did not know. One word began to spread, a word aliens struggled to pronounce: boogeyman. The council tried to silence the rumors. They declared it human lies, propaganda meant to scare the weak. But still the whispers grew, because fear does not need truth to live. It only needs a shadow. The human diplomat finally left the council chamber. He did not shout. He did not argue. He only left behind a small note on the table, written in simple human script. When the avian strategist picked it up, he hissed in confusion. The note carried only 2 words: "Legends live." The laughter in the chamber grew quieter that day. None of them admitted it, but a small seed of fear had been planted, and far away in the darkness of space, humanity began to water that seed. They had been mocked as cowards, but soon the galaxy would learn cowards do not create monsters, and monsters were already awake. The galaxy believed humans were silent because they were weak, but silence can be sharper than any blade. Silence can cut deeper than any scream. Alien commanders continued their jokes in every council hall. Their broadcasts reached the outer colonies. They called humans soft skin and bone dust. They told their people that humans would never dare to fight. But while their words spread, something darker spread faster. In the far edges of space, alien scout teams began to vanish. At first it was one ship, then three, then entire patrol fleets. They left behind no distress signals, no wreckage, no escape pods, only silence. The commanders dismissed the losses. They said pirates were responsible, or black holes, or accidents. But soldiers whispered otherwise. They whispered about shadows, a me. Sag appeared on an alien battleship wall, scratched deep into the metal with no sign of entry. One word burned like fire. Boogeyman. Another night in a different system. A supply station reported a human figure walking through their corridors, though no human ship had landed. Cameras showed only flickers of light, long shadows, and then static. When power returned, the storage bays were empty and a single phrase was carved into the floor. Baba Yaga walks. The rumors spread faster than orders. Soldiers who had mocked humans refused to sleep in the dark. Commanders banned the word boogeyman, but that only made it grow stronger. Meanwhile, on Earth, deep inside a hidden training facility, men and women moved like ghosts through corridors of steel. They were the chosen, warriors who studied human myths not as stories, but as weapons. Each one wore no badge, no name tag, no light on their armor. They were trained to be unseen, unheard, unstoppable. Their leader walked among them, a woman with cold eyes and a voice that carried no hesitation. She was known only by a code name whispered in fear and respect, Baba Yaga. Her presence was not like a general shouting orders. It was like a storm waiting behind a closed door, silent but impossible to ignore. Aliens think we are cowards, she said, her tone calm, almost gentle. Let us remind them of the dark. Let us teach them what true fear feels like. The warriors nodded in silence, no cheering, no words. Only the sound of blades being sharpened and weapons being checked. Back in alien space, the High Council tried to keep control. They gathered fleets of thousands. They told their citizens that humans were nothing but insects, but the laughter was weaker now, thinner, as if fear had entered their bones. A reptilian commander slammed his fist on the council table. Enough with these childish stories. Humans are weak. We will burn their planet and end this myth once and for all. But another commander, older, quieter, leaned forward, his scales dull with age. If they are so weak, he asked softly, then why are our fleets disappearing in the dark? No one answered, because every commander had heard the stories now. A squad of elite alien troopers entering a silent station, only to find their comrades gone without a sound. Another platoon marching through a jungle and vanishing one by one. Their screams never reaching the comms, and in every place the same marks left behind, human words carved into steel. Legends live. The alien soldiers began to fear the night. They kept their lamps on. They slept in circles, rifles aimed at shadows. Some refused to fight at all. Fear was spreading faster than war, and humans were the ones guiding it. Back on Earth, human leaders watched the reports with cold eyes. They did not smile, they did not celebrate, they only studied. Every lost alien fleet was a step, every whisper a victory. Fear is a weapon, one general said, and the galaxy has already given us the battlefield, their minds. In the shadows of space, the first coordinated strike was prepared, not a battle of fleets against fleets, but whispers against armies, silence against noise, nightmares against numbers. The legends were no longer just names from old stories. They were living weapons now. The boogeyman was real. Baba Yaga was real. And the galaxy was about to learn that when humans are mocked, they do not answer with anger. They answer with fear. Because sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is the sound of monsters walking closer. The alien armada finally moved. Thousands of warships crossing into human space. Their banners glowing, their commanders confident that this would be a swift and easy conquest. They believed the war would end in days. The first target was a Terran outpost on the edge of a quiet system. A station with little defense, just a handful of small ships and a scattering of human soldiers. The aliens expected surrender. They expected begging. They expected fear. But when their fleet arrived, the station lights were already dark. The alien flagship scanned the station. No power, no heat, only silence. The commander sneered. "See? They flee even before we arrive," he declared. But the silence was not surrender. It was a trap. The boarding teams entered first, armored troops storming the station halls, their weapons ready, their laughter echoing. They kicked open doors and found nothing, no soldiers, no civilians, only shadows. Then the shadows moved. A soldier in the rear screamed, but when the others turned, he was gone. Only his rifle remained. The sound of his armor scraping against the wall was the last noise he ever made. Another soldier fired into the darkness. The flashes of his weapon lit the hall, but no target appeared. Instead, his shots revealed words carved into the wall, deep scratches forming human letters. "Boogeyman." Panic spread through the squad. They called for extraction, but their comms went silent. Their ships outside reported nothing unusual, yet inside the station, one by one, soldiers vanished, pulled into the dark. The alien commander grew impatient. He ordered more squads to enter, more troops to sweep every corridor. They pushed deeper and deeper until screams began to echo through every hall. The soldiers were not dying in battle. They were being hunted. The commander shouted orders, his voice shaking now, but then his ship's lights flickered, his screens turned black, and when the lights returned, a single human face appeared on the main display. It was pale, expressionless, eyes like glass. It spoke only one sentence. "You laughed first." Then the ship's power died completely. Across the fleet, chaos spread. One battleship after another reported strange shadows on their decks. Alarms ringing with no cause. Soldiers opening fire at empty corners. And then silence. The alien soldiers began to whisper the human names. Some whispered Boogeyman, others whispered Baba Yaga. Both names carried weight heavier than weapons. On one cruiser, an entire platoon locked themselves in the barracks, too afraid to fight. When the doors were finally forced open, the soldiers were gone, their rifles neatly stacked in the center of the room, and scratched into the floor was the same message: legends live. The commander of the invasion force tried to retreat, but his navigation system failed. His coordinates scrambled. His fleet drifted blind in human territory, lost like prey in a hunter's maze. Outside their ships, in the endless dark of space, small human vessels appeared and vanished like ghosts, striking fast, leaving no trace. They did not fight for territory. They fought for terror. Every alien soldier now knew humanity was not answering mockery with pride. They were answering with nightmares. One surviving alien trooper was pulled from a wreck and questioned by his commanders. He was shaking, his claws trembling, his eyes wide. "We do not fight soldiers," he whispered. "We fight shadows. We fight monsters." Back on Earth, the Human War Council watched the reports without expression. They had predicted this. Fear had spread exactly as planned. The galaxy's laughter was gone, replaced by whispers. "Phase 1 complete," Baba Yaga said calmly, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. "Now they know the Boogeyman is real." Her words were not loud, but they were more powerful than any fleet, because the galaxy had learned its first lesson. Humans do not need to outnumber their enemies. They only need to remind them of the dark, and the dark was everywhere. The alien High Council sat in silence for the first time in centuries. No laughter filled their chamber now, no mocking words, only the heavy weight of fear pressing against. At every wall, reports from the front lines arrived every hour, and every report carried the same haunting words. "We saw him, we saw her, the Boogeyman, Baba Yaga." Commanders argued. They demanded proof. They demanded logic, but their soldiers gave only trembling voices. No one could describe exactly what they saw. Some claimed it was one human, others swore it was many. Some said shadows themselves moved. Others believed the air turned into weapons. The galaxy's strongest armies were falling to stories. And then Baba Yaga herself arrived on the battlefield. It was a barren world near the edge of alien-controlled space, an important supply hub guarded by 5,000 troops and an iron fortress. No human fleet approached, no bombardment from space, only silence. The alien soldiers laughed nervously at the thought. Perhaps the humans are afraid to face us directly, one commander sneered. But the laughter ended when the power inside the fortress died. All at once, in the darkness, footsteps echoed, not rushed, not panicked, but slow, steady, like someone walking without fear. "Who dares?" the alien commander shouted into the dark, his claws trembling. A voice answered, calm, sharp, cutting through the silence like a blade. "I am Baba Yaga." The soldiers opened fire. Lasers lit the halls, explosions tore walls apart, but the figure did not fall. She moved between the lights like smoke, her eyes glowing faintly, her strikes faster than their screams. The aliens were not facing an army, they were facing a legend made flesh. When the lights returned, the fortress was quiet, every corridor littered with broken weapons, every screen displaying the same two words: legends live. Only one alien officer survived, crawling through the wreckage, his body shaking. He whispered to his commanders later, "She cannot be killed. She walks through fire. She does not stop. She does not rest." The galaxy now had a new title for humanity. Not cowards, not weaklings, but nightmare bringers. Across the stars, human operatives followed the same path. They wore no colors, no banners, only silence. Every strike was precise. Every disappearance left behind one word: boogeyman. Entire outposts surrendered before a single shot was fired. Alien soldiers refused to march when told their path crossed the shadow zone. Fear itself had become the most effective weapon of war. Inside alien command centers, generals tore apart maps, searching for logic, searching for answers. "This is impossible," one screamed. "How can shadows defeat fleets?" But logic was useless against terror, because terror lived in the mind and humans had planted it deep. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Baba Yaga stood before her council, her armor dark, her face cold, no celebration, no pride, only silence. "They are beginning to break," one human general reported. "We see mass desertions, soldiers refusing orders, colonies whispering about the dark." Baba Yaga nodded slowly. "Fear is stronger than fire. It spreads faster than fleets. We do not need to conquer their worlds. Their minds are already ours." In alien space, whispers turned into panic. Entire planets began to light their skies at night, keeping lamps burning. As if fire could protect them from the dark, civilians begged their leaders for safety. Commanders could no longer hide the truth. At night, alien children asked their parents, "Will the boogeyman come for us too?" And their parents had no answer, because legends are not bound by truth, they are bound by belief, and belief was already broken. One by one, alien warlords began to avoid human borders. Their fleets stayed away, their armies refused to march, not because of human weapons, but because of human shadows. The galaxy, that once laughed, now trembled at every flicker of light, every shadow in the corner, every whisper in the dark, and at the center of it all, Baba Yaga walked calmly, step by step, turning human myths into the sharpest blades the universe had ever seen. The galaxy was no longer laughing. The same voices that once mocked humanity now spoke in whispers. Commanders who once called humans cowards now kept their armies awake at night because they feared the dark. Entire fleets refused to leave their docks. Soldiers begged to be reassigned away from human borders, some even deserted, running back to their home worlds. The idea of facing humans was no longer war, it was suicide. In one alien colony, the governor ordered his soldiers to prepare for battle. But when the night fell, they found their weapons stacked neatly in the center of the courtyard, untouched by alarms, untouched by guards, and carved into the stone beneath them was a single phrase: the boogeyman was here. The soldiers dropped to their knees, some screamed, others refused to fight at all. By morning, the entire colony had surrendered, and not a single human had fired a shot. Across the stars, this pattern repeated. Cities surrendered before fleets arrived. Fortresses opened their gates without a single strike. Entire planets declared neutrality, begging humans for mercy. Baba Yaga moved quietly from world to world, never staying long, never speaking more than a few words. Her presence alone was enough. Wherever she appeared, discipline shattered, courage died, commanders trembled. One alien warlord demanded proof of her existence. He shouted before his troops, "There is no Baba Yaga, there is only fear in your weak minds." But that night his fortress burned, his body found alone, and on the wall above him, carved deep into the metal, were 3 words: Baba Yaga walks. The warlord's soldiers abandoned the field without orders. No one wanted to inherit his command. Humanity was not winning with numbers, not with fleets, but with something faulty, or more devastating belief. On Earth, the War Council watched the galaxy fracture. Their generals were calm, but even they were surprised at how quickly fear spread. "We planned for months," one officer whispered, "but in weeks they have begun to collapse." Baba Yaga stood silent, her shadow cast across the table. She finally spoke. "When a child fears the dark, you do not need to fight the child. You only need to let the shadow remain. Our enemies are children now, frightened, blind, waiting for shadows to move." Her words carried across the room like stone. Alien civilians began to light fires in their homes at night. Whole cities kept their skies glowing. But even in the light, fear remained, because legends live in the mind, not in the dark. A trader ship docked at an alien station reported seeing human words etched across its own hull, even though no human had boarded. The words read, "Legends live." Panic spread so quickly that trade routes collapsed. Entire empires bled without a single battle, their economies failing, their people rioting, their soldiers fleeing, all because of whispers. The galaxy that once mocked humanity had become a galaxy of trembling shadows, and still, humanity pressed forward. In one daring strike, a small group of human operatives entered a heavily guarded alien stronghold, not to destroy it, but to leave behind a single banner, black and silent. The banner showed no symbol, only two words, "Boogeyman waits." When soldiers discovered it, they abandoned the stronghold before nightfall. Commanders tried to rally their forces. They promised victory, they promised strength, but no one believed them anymore. Even the strongest voices shook when they spoke the names. Boogeyman, Baba Yaga. Fear had become the sharpest sword, sharper than lasers, sharper than fleets, sharper than fire, and humanity wielded it with precision, for the first time in recorded story. Alien warlords begged for peace not because of defeat in battle, but because of defeat in the mind. They demanded talks with Earth, they offered treaties, they offered tribute, but humanity did not rush. Humanity let the fear grow because fear was no longer just a tactic, it was a weapon, and every time an alien commander closed his eyes at night, he wondered if the boogeyman was already there. Every time a soldier stepped into a dark hallway, he imagined Baba Yaga waiting in silence. The galaxy now understood. Humans were not weak, humans were not cowards, humans were the nightmares that never die, and the war was far from over. The alliance that once mocked humanity now stood on the edge of collapse. Their mighty fleet still existed, their armies still numbered in the billions, but numbers meant nothing when courage was gone. Every council meeting ended in shouting. Reptilian generals blamed insectoid admirals, avian strategists blamed reptilians, and smaller species blamed them all. No one could agree because fear had already divided them. Reports poured in daily, planets surrendering before human fleets even arrived, soldiers abandoning weapons, supply lines falling apart. Worse still, whispers that human shadows had been seen in places impossible to reach, in space stations locked for months, in fortresses surrounded by guards, in command ships at the very heart of alien territory. "How do they get inside?" one commander screamed, his claws tearing the table. "Our doors are sealed, our walls are thick, and yet they appear." No one answered because every answer was the same. Legends. The word boogeyman spread across entire fleets like infection. Soldiers painted over their ship numbers to avoid being identified, terrified that the name might attract him. Some refused to speak his name at all, as if the word itself could summon him. And then there was Baba Yaga. Her name spread even faster. She had become more than a commander, more than a warrior. She had become a shadow in every soldier's mind, the mother of fear, the relentless hunter, the one who never rests. Entire battalions deserted when rumors claimed she was near. Fortresses crumbled at the sound of footsteps that were not there. The alien High Council tried to show strength. They declared humans liars. They called the legends false, but even their own voices shook when they spoke, and soldiers could see it. In one meeting, an old avian strategist whispered, "Perhaps they are not humans at all. Perhaps they are something older, something we woke by mocking." The chamber went silent. No one laughed. No one dared to deny it. Human fleets moved quietly, never large, never loud, but always precise. One night a fortress would fall, the next night a governor would vanish. The next week a fleet would scatter in panic before firing a shot. The galaxy had never seen war like this. War fought not with weapons, but with shadows. On Earth, the Human War Council studied every report. Maps glowed across their tables, but their generals did not smile. Fear was not celebrated. It was used. "Do not let them think this is chance," Baba Yaga said coldly. "Remind them with every step, every whisper, every shadow that legends live." Her eyes were like fire hidden behind ice, her voice steady. "The collapse has begun. We will not stop until every empire kneels, not to our fleets, but to their own fear." And collapse came quickly. The insectoid armada abandoned its reptilian allies after 3 fleets disappeared in the night. Reptilian commanders accused avian strategists of betrayal. Avians accused insectoids of cowardice. Planets that once stood united now prepared for war against each other. But they were too late, because fear had already won. Alien civilians began to riot, demanding their leaders surrender to humanity before the boogeyman came for them. Markets crashed, trade collapsed, warlords killed each other in desperate attempts to hold power. Every time a leader tried to rally their people, the lights would flicker, a shadow would pass the wall, and the crowd would break apart in screams. No human needed to be there. Fear itself was enough. In one desperate attempt, the council ordered an assassination on Baba Yaga. They sent their finest killers, but weeks later the assassins' bodies were delivered back to the council chamber, silent, pale, their armor carved with the words, "Legends live." No one spoke in that chamber again. The galaxy that once mocked humans was now fractured. Empires no longer trusted one another. Soldiers no longer obeyed. Civilians no longer believed in strength. And all of it had been done without humanity matching their fleets, without humanity conquering their planets, without humanity firing more than a fraction of their weapons, because sometimes the sharpest weapon is not steel, not fire, not numbers, but fear. And humanity had mastered it. The galaxy was broken. What began as laughter in a grand council had become silence across 1,000 stars. No commander dared to mock humans now. No soldier dared to say the words coward or weak. Instead, they whispered other words, darker words, boogeyman, Baba Yaga. The alliance still existed on paper. Fleets still floated in orbit. Armies still filled the barracks. But none of it mattered, because their courage was already gone. The reptilian warlord Drasek called for one last desperate stand. He summoned every surviving commander to his throne world. "We will crush these shadows," he hissed. "We will show the galaxy that humans bleed like all flesh." His words were strong, but his eyes betrayed his fear as the Y lords argued. Their fortress lights flickered, the walls groaned, the air grew cold, silence fell over the chamber. And then a voice spoke, soft, steady, merciless. "You laughed first." Every commander froze, their claws, wings, and limbs trembling. The doors slammed shut. The torches died, and when the darkness lifted, one chair was empty. The reptilian warlord was gone. In his place lay a small piece of metal scratched with 2 words. "Legends live." Panic ripped through the chamber. Commanders fled, their fleets splintered. No one trusted anyone, and no one wanted to face humanity. Meanwhile, human fleets moved with calm precision. They did not march with banners. They did not roar with pride. They moved like shadows, quiet, patient, unstoppable. On one alien world, the civilians gathered in the central square. They raised their arms in surrender before a single human ship appeared in orbit. The sky was empty, but their voices cried out, we yield, spare us." No bullet fired, no blade raised, only fear. Back on Earth, the Human War Council gathered for the final message. Their maps glowed with broken alliances, shattered empires, collapsed fleets. Humanity had done the impossible, not by outnumbering, but by outlasting, not by boasting, but by becoming what the galaxy feared most. Baba Yaga stood at the center of the chamber, her armor scarred, her eyes calm. "The galaxy mocked us," she said, her voice echoing in the silence. "They thought we were weak. They thought we were prey. Now they know the truth. We are the nightmares that walk. We are the shadows that never rest." She looked across her generals, her voice cold, final. "Let this be their lesson. Humanity does not beg, humanity does not crawl. When they laugh, we do not answer with pride, we answer with legends. And the legends had won. Across the stars, alien children no longer asked about humans with laughter. They asked with trembling voices, "Will the boogeyman come tonight?" They hid beneath blood. In kits, they begged their parents for light, and even parents could not promise safety. Alien soldiers refused orders, commanders refused meetings, warlords abandoned their thrones. And in every shadow, in every whisper, humanity remained. The galaxy would never again call humans cowards. They would never again mock Earth, because humanity had written its name in fear, carved into metal, burned into memory, carried in whispers. The war ended not with fleets destroyed, not with empires burned, but with silence. Silence that spread from world to world. Silence that carried one truth. The galaxy had learned. They laughed once, but they would never laugh again. And in every corner of every star system, two names echoed forever: Boogeyman, Baba Yaga.